Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes and glad to have our old friend Alycia Cooper with us today, comedian extraordinaire. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sybil. I love this show.
Well, we love having you. I'm sorry it's taken us so long to make our schedules work and get everything, but it was great to see you on the Joiner Cruise. Did you have a good time?
Yes, I had so much fun. Well, you know how you do. You got to pace yourself. One night I
Right.
hit a wall and I done missed the Isley brothers and everybody. When I woke up, I had slob upside my head. I done missed everything. But I got back up and kept it moving. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good time and an ability for you not only to get the music acts, but to really spend time with your fellow comedians and
Yes.
see them and them come
Yeah.
see you and to make some new friendships, right?
Yes, and like you said, to see people we weren't able to see because of a pandemic. So it was like a little mini reunion of comics in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It was a lot of fun, and you're like, where are you? I know you're here on the ship somewhere, and I would get texts from you and trying to figure out because that I mean, there's something happening at every minute of the day, right?
That 8 o'clock ship church, I made it one morning
Me too. Me
and,
too.
and, and I enjoyed it. So anytime you got church 7 days a week at 8 o'clock, it's
In the
always
morning,
something to
and a packed room, Alicia. Right? I mean,
do. A packed room. And also a lot of them, I saw them the night before at 3 a.m. at the
right.
Go-Go with EU.
Right,
So
right, right. Yeah, and you wouldn't have seen Huggy and Chris in that room, but
no.
you would see the people who are enjoying it. Yeah, and Griff,
Yes.
the comedian,
Yeah. Yeah.
just does an excellent job in pulling that
Yes.
all together. And the
Yes.
preachers are, they're very understanding that you may have seen them too, just
Yeah.
a few hours ago, but
Yes.
it was a great time. It really was an absolutely wonderful time, and I didn't have as many assignments, and so I got to really enjoy a lot of this on the cruise for the first time. So it was a great time, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it one more time. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was hoping you had already left, but I was hoping you were able to see our comedy shows because I did two shows in the same night with Kim Whitley
Right,
and
right.
Marsha Warfield. But you had already. I was like, oh, I want a Sybil to see, but
I
hopefully we'll get
know,
another
I
shot.
know. I'm really looking forward to that because Alicia Cooper, you are an incredible comedian, and I want people to be able to partake of all your comedy genius and brilliance. And so we're going to talk about that as we
Thank
go
you.
along this evening. But just suffice it to say that you were, I got reports, and I did have to get off because we had graduations and stuff to attend,
Right.
but this was it was such an interesting mix of
Yes.
old school, new school, and middle
Yes.
school comedians,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like Sylvia Tremor and Marsha
Yes.
Warfield and you and Kim and Myra J and old man J. Anthony Brown, and it was just like it was great. It was really great.
Yes.
It was a
It was
really
amazing.
yeah, it really was. So how are you? How are things since you got back off the ship?
You know what? Everything's going really well. You know, I'm always juggling a thousand things at once, so that didn't change. And I just shot somebody asked me to play a nurse in a short film they wrote, and I did that on Saturday. I was playing a nurse, and just fun things like that. What I realized for me is I get the roles I don't have to audition for. Like when people call me and they like, we want you, we got a role, we want you to play Veronica. Because if I'm auditioning, I'm competing with 30,000 other people.
Right, right,
So yeah, I get the things that people want me for.
right.
And it was so much fun. And I'm still writing. My album just came out last Friday. A lot of my friends from high school went on and got the album, and it's doing
Nice.
really well. And then next is the special on Tubi, so it's the video version of the audio that you hear
Got
on
it.
iTunes.
Got it.
And
Got it.
yeah, so things are going well, and I'm
Good.
still writing, and still
So
traveling.
so one of the things that I mean when you talk about the parts and sometimes you look up on television and go, is that Alicia on Keenan's show? And it's like, it's great to see you in these random parts and it's like
Yeah.
she's the, pack up all your junk lady and
That's another one I got a phone call for.
really.
So yeah, because other than that, it's very because see what used to happen, Sybil, before the pandemic, if you were auditioning, you had to go in.
Right.
So if the audition was in Hollywood, you need to be somewhere in Southern California. Now you can send in a self-tape from Germany.
Right, right, exactly
You
right.
know, so
And
you're competing with the globe now for 3 sentences.
right, right. So we need to talk about the newsletter. And for those of you who don't know, this is our Monday through Friday effort to super serve the African American community with news and entertainment, and to a general extent, mostly news, politics, as well as mental health and wellness, LGBTQ issues, politics. I mentioned social justice and what have you. And speaking of social justice, we're going to talk to a young woman that's involved with an event going on in Atlanta in a little bit as well. But let's move to the newsletter, because this is has to do with today, the social health and I'm sorry, mental health and wellness. And our contributor Aprilette is not with us today, but she did present an article in the newsletter. Which talks about Black kids, Black children, our children facing racism before they even start school, which is driving a major mental health crisis. Black children report experiencing an average of 5 instances of racial discrimination per day. 5 racial situations per day. Just let that sink in. Research and data show a growing mental health crisis as a result of this among Black youth over several decades, including an increase in the prevalence of suicide attempts among Black adolescents, nearly 80%. We've had stories where, Alycia, where young Black children as young as 7, 8 years old have been bullied to the extent that they committed suicide. They
Mm,
were
mm,
bullied
mm, mm.
so severely that they found a way, and they couldn't make it stop. Their parents were unable to make it stop, or sometimes their parents didn't even know what was going on. But it was such a severe situation and critical that they said the only way out was to kill themselves.
That is terrible, Sybil. That is terrible. It's so, your mind goes so many places when you hear stories like this, and it's easier said than done. The first thing we think is homeschool your child, but
Right.
everybody
Yes.
can't homeschool,
That's
and
right.
it seems like it's getting worse. Like I mean,
Yes.
I guess maybe I didn't realize how well I had it growing up in PG County, Maryland, right
Right.
outside of DC. My teachers were Black women for the most part in
Hmm.
elementary school,
Yeah.
and the one time I had a white woman teacher, I had like 10 A's, a B, and a D. She gave me a D in work habits. You can't have A's and one B and a D in work habits. And so my mother was like, well, why would she get a D in work habits with all these A's? And the teacher was like, well, she talks too much. And I was like, yeah, I like to talk. I'm an only child. It's the only
Yeah.
time I get to see other kids. I'm about to run my mouth. And
Yep.
I'm going to be a stand-up comic one day. Let me talk. So, so that they'll find ways to mess up your A's and B's.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just got to stay on top of it. I was just very fortunate. My mother made sure my pediatrician was a Black man out of Howard University, so I
Hmm.
didn't have the medical stuff they do to us.
Right.
Things
Right.
like that, because you really have to look around for African Americans to keep your kids from being victimized like this.
Yeah, and Aprilette in the story goes on and talks about racism affecting mental health on a number of levels, including direct hostility and microaggressions. That's something you can speak to in terms of what this teacher was trying to do to you. She was playing head games with you.
Right. And see, the microaggressions though, they're the
Hmm.
hardest to catch, because people try to say you paranoid when you point
Right.
out a microaggression.
Yep.
And they know what they're doing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's terrible. And then like kids don't have the vocabulary to explain exactly what's happening to them and why they're feeling that way.
Yeah.
And that's why, like some of them are unfortunately harming themselves to even suicide, and they don't have the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
The frustration is so great, the fear,
Yeah.
the anger, all of these emotions going on,
Yeah.
and feeling as though this is the only way out. This is something we need to talk about on the regular, and I'm sorry that Aprilette was not able to join us, but she's really good at being someone who can express and can help us make those connections and explain it to us. So hopefully we will bring this back up again. But Black adolescents are far less likely than their white peers to seek mental health care, just like Black adults, in part because of the long history of systemic racism and mistreatment of Black patients by the medical community. And that's what you're saying. Your mom recognized that you
Yeah.
needed a Black pediatrician,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
you would not have to deal with these things. And
Yeah.
there's still a lot of work to do. And this is what, one of the things that we endeavor to do is to bring these topics out and to let people know that
Hmm.
we're on it and that we should be trying to do this as a people. And that's what we learned from Tom Joyner, is to super serve the African American community. And we would like for people to subscribe to our newsletter. It is still free in 23, as we like to say. Please go to sybilwilkes.com. Give us your name and your email address. We'll have it in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. And we talk about, as I mentioned, talk about a number of these issues. My wheelhouse is pretty much politics. So what I did in the current newsletter is talk about Bidenomics. Do you know what Bidenomics are?
Yeah. Yes,
Well,
the reverse of trickle down economics. Thank goodness.
ding, 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 right on the nose. And that is what the president, Joe Biden, was on the road. He went to my hometown of Chicago to press his economy plan, his economics, Bidenomics, which kind of grew out of conversations between economists and financial writers. As he said, it's not something that he came up with, but he'll claim it, and it's what he has tried to do during his presidency. And as you said, trickle down economics, made famous during the Reagan administration as well as
Hmm.
during the Trump administration, which means that they would help the people who are the richest in our country. And then as a result of their good luck and fortune, the economics and the benefits will trickle down to us poor folks. That's not the way it works. That's not the way any of this works. As the commercial says, it is an effort to benefit the good old boys and girls in many respects, to cut their taxes and to put more money in their pockets. And they say that'll mean that they'll have more money to expand their businesses, hire people, and to pay their people better. That's not the way it has ever worked out. And Mr. Biden instead wants to, and what he has done with his infrastructure acts, and as well as the post pandemic or during the pandemic act, he has just put money in the middle class, and has widened the base in which people are getting to benefit from programs and jobs and what have you, and to from the middle class out, instead of going from the upper class all the way down. And he points to a middle class that was really on its way to non-existence
Yeah.
before he became president. And so, there were all these articles: what happened to the middle class? Where is the middle class? How did the middle class die? And so he's like, we are bringing this country back to life, and it's with the base of this economy, which is through the middle class. And also in terms of making sure that people are getting educations, that they are getting the jobs and the support that they need health wise as well. And all of these things seem to be working. They
Yeah.
really do seem to be working. And you can't, you from a sarcastic point of view, you're like, yeah, yeah. But really, if you see your people who look like you and me, who are working, who are finishing their degrees, and are keeping their fingers crossed that the I'm not sure how this is going to work, knowing what the Supreme Court is doing, but hoping that a lot of our young people are not saddled with the tuition bills and repaying on their loans because of the high cost of education. And the
Yeah.
president is trying to do that.
But you better let people work. That's what you better do, or they're gonna be climbing through your bedroom window.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
a choice. At the end of the day, America, the worst part about capitalism is that it fuels greed.
yes,
In the 70s, the average CEO made 8 times more than their workers.
right,
Now they're making like 300 times more. And
right,
all that comes from this so-called trickle down. When you hear it, it sounds like crap. Do you want anything to trickle down, or do
Trickle.
you want it to gush down? I need the gush
Like
down
a mighty
economics.
roll. Yeah,
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 like a
yeah.
mighty roll. I don't want nothing trickling. It takes too long. But they knew when they said that mess that it was some mess, and they were getting kickbacks when they said it then.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, nobody gives you more than they forced to give you.
Right.
And
Right.
all these jobs, where are they? We are in the gap between the rich and the poor is the widest it's ever been. And anytime somebody hears trickle down economics, they should get mad that
Right.
somebody's trying to sucker you once again. It does not work.
It doesn't work, and historically it is shown not to work. And when you have major, wolves of Wall Street, even in Wall Street the movie they say greed is good. Well, no, it's not, unless it
It's
works
not.
for you only. Then
Mhm.
that's a very
Yeah, it's
personal
good for
issue.
you and your
Right.
family, but it's not
Right.
good for anybody else.
Right, right. And you have major businessmen owning, the industry and saying, how fair is it that my secretary, who makes a mere percentage of what I make, pays more in taxes than I do? That doesn't make any sense. And it's
When it came out that Donald Trump is paying $750 a year in taxes, we all
right,
should have lost it.
right, right, right.
But that's how
Exactly.
the system is set up. But Sybil, we didn't have people walking into a Walgreens and walking out with all kinds of stuff in their backpack and walking out. We didn't have that stuff years ago. This is where we've gotten to, and
Right.
how ridiculous it was. In the 80s, people were panhandle in front of the 7-Eleven until they got enough money to go in and
Totally.
make a purchase.
That's right.
Now
That's right.
they skipping that whole step.
Now the
And it's
water is
only gonna
locked
get
up,
worse.
behind the
Oh,
counters, and in
yeah.
the, but they're locked up, and people can't get to it, and they're trying to save their companies, but the situation is so grave that something has begun and has to be done. And President Biden is on the road, and he's crowing and letting people know, yeah, we did
Yeah.
this, and this is why you
Yeah.
need to reelect me. And so it
Yeah.
used to be that you don't brag about these things, you don't tell people, but
Well, you have to now because
you
Fox
have to.
News will lie and say you didn't do nothing.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Yep, because your opponents will try to blindside people and say,
Yeah.
here's what I'm doing, and don't pay any attention to those guys.
Yeah.
Luckily, some people have gotten to Mr. Biden, who is a very humble man, from all looks of life, and at him and his life. And people are saying, you got to get out there. You really do have to get out there. Did you always have? Is it growing up in PG County that you had this interest in what was going on in politics, or were you one of
I
those who
think
was
so.
always invested?
I think so. I think having two parents who are from DC and they grew up near the White House, and the news, our news
Hmm.
was always on politics, and
Yeah.
my parents watched 60 Minutes and things that were pretty heady.
Hmm.
So, I would, as a kid, I'd be like, ugh. Now I'm watching 60 Minutes. Oh, you hear tick, 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 tick in my daggone living room. So I think it's just, I come from a family of people who were informed. My mother read the newspaper cover to cover every day.
I think
So
we
they
are
were
born
very
from the same
informed.
parents there, Alycia. I mean, we're only children. Parents watching 60 Minutes, reading the newspaper from cover to cover, and I think
Watching Jeopardy and getting the
yeah,
questions right.
right, right.
So so I was always a naturally curious person anyway.
Hmm.
And politics, I have to be honest, I would read about stuff, but I didn't care about politics until Obama started running.
Right.
Then we all started learning about what this meant and how, because
Hmm.
I never thought a black man could win in my lifetime.
Right.
So I really started paying attention around 2006.
Hmm.
And that's when I really started taking politics as something that we as a people can possibly rise to the highest ranks in.
That's right.
And
That's definitely right.
yeah, so that's when I really paid attention, when Diddy had Rock the Vote and
Hmm.
everybody was in it at that time. Oprah,
Right. Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
movement. And
Yeah.
ever since then, I've really paid extra attention to what's going on politically.
I'm with you. I was always very interested in politics, and remember the conversations that we would have over the table, but nothing like this. Check this out. Coy Malone has a story about a friend of ours. Darlene McCoy is a radio host and on Radio One stations. She might be on right now, as a matter of fact. She went to a restaurant at the recommendation of some friends regarding a sandwich at this cheesesteak spot in Atlanta.
Mm.
And she went and placed her order. And on the receipt that she got, she told the man, he said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Darlene." He put down Darky. And she said, came on social media and said she had a very racist situation and told them about how he typed Darky on her receipt. And she said, "Why would you call me that? And that this is a serious situation. Why didn't you just put Darlene?" He says, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm good." And she said, "No, I want you to change it or give me my money back. I'm canceling the order." And he would not do that. And so she's brought this to the attention of the company, got a lawyer, and said, "Look, you have to do something about this racist employee, fire him, and you've got to do something in terms of raising the racial consciousness of your other employees." And so now it is on the front pages of news stations and newspapers regarding the situation. Have you ever had a situation like that before?
Oh no, I'm just lucky. I was telling Dominique the other day. I said, "Dominique, I said, how come we never around when the BS happens?" So I must have a look on my face. People don't bother me like that. And you're not putting Darky on no receipt of mine. First of all, we gonna write then and they'll pick it.
Right.
I'm gonna have a news station out in front of Woody's steak and cheese. No, you ain't selling another steak and cheese for the rest of 2023. You put Darky on my daggone receipt. And I actually shared that story on my Instagram because I don't share everything. We get bombarded. Something about that really stuck with me. Maybe it's because she was like almost crying in the video. It was so ridiculous what they had done her. They said the man doesn't speak good English. Well, then stop hiring people who don't speak good English.
And if you can write down
that's
Darky,
the excuse. You spoke good English. You knew enough to know the insults.
Right.
So they always come up with excuses for these types. But I'm so glad that she didn't. And first of all, don't eat there. Don't eat anywhere where the people don't like you. You don't know what they're doing in your food.
Exactly.
That was so terrible, Darky. And but my thing is, so you don't care that we even gonna see this.
Right. They don't care. But they will learn their lesson. They will learn their lesson because Darlene McCoy don't play, and neither do her listeners and her fans. So we're going to see something different going on here.
Yeah. And I hope are they picketing in front of the place? Because we had an experience like that at a crab house in Maryland. It was a racist white male crab owner at this crab place. When I tell you them people picketed, he didn't sell another crab for like a month. He had to apologize, all kinds of stuff, because they were taking shifts out there picketing in front of his place. That's the only way you hurt these people and stop white supremacy is hitting them in their pockets. Remember that story where was a black lady who got the keys to the Klan building after suing them?
Yeah.
You have to decimate them financially. That's all they pay attention to. That's what happened with the Montgomery bus boycott. They stopped. They had to walk for over a year, but the bus company knew they couldn't sustain this. And they had to then cave. You have to hit them in the pockets.
Hit them in the pockets. Hit them where it hurts. Yep. Absolutely right. Alycia, we're going to move to what's going on and talk about you and your situation.
My favorite topic.
Okay, so tell us about what happened last week and what we look forward to coming up.
Okay, so last week, my sixth comedy album called Alycia Cooper for President dropped on iTunes. And the reason I came up with that title was because in my act, I would say, a poll came out that said for 2024, most Americans don't want Joe Biden or Donald Trump to run for president. So I'm running for president. You heard it here first. And then I talk about what policies I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to change is we're going to reverse those airline bag fees. So I start talking about my policies. I let them know I'm not going to be able to raise $720 million like Hillary Clinton did to mount an effective campaign. So I just need y'all to write my name in.
Nice.
So that's how the title came to be, Alycia Cooper for President. And we're talking some politics, but we're also talking about just some other things. How kids are different today than we were when we grew up. They're completely different than us.
Right.
I talk about some of the current events that were happening at the time, and a little bit of my family. And So and everybody that's listened to it so far, they've reached back out to me and said that they enjoyed it. So that's
It
what you
is
want to hear.
hilarious. I promise you, it is absolutely hilarious. And I wonder about people downloading comedy albums. That,
Mhm.
and I don't want to say that it's not, but is it still a thing?
I think it is just the same way audio books are a thing. Like
Hmm.
now, I don't read anymore. Every book I have is on Audible.
Hmm.
And so, because I can listen to it on the plane, I can listen to it in the car, and it's a form of escapism. So I believe that people are doing the same thing. They're listening to comedy albums on the plane, in the car, on their way somewhere else, and enjoying it because it's an easy thing to do.
Right, it is, and who doesn't want to laugh? Who doesn't? But you have a history of your own life of kind of being guided into the world of comedy by listening to the albums of some of the greats, right?
Yes, my cousin Karen, she got kicked out of the house. Her mom kicked her out of the house for being, mouthy. And she moved in with my mom. And so she's 17 and I'm 8. So I'm listening to everything she's listening to, which was
Right.
not age appropriate. So we're sneaking. We're
Hmm.
listening to Millie Jackson. We're listening to everybody, Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and we're snickering and cracking up. But then we also watch some that's on network television, like Judy Tenuta,
Oh yeah.
Rita Rudner, Gallagher. We listened to Judy. What's the guy? Oh man, her name just came and went. But it was so many. Arsenio.
Uh-huh.
It was a lot of but what happened with the ones on TV is they had to go through standards and practices. So their stuff was really network friendly,
Hmm.
but it was
Hmm.
still funny. So when I saw HBO Def Comedy Jam and no words were off limits,
Right.
that's when and everybody was my age. These were my peers. That's when
Hmm.
I first started looking at it like, okay, maybe this is something that you can do.
Right. Yeah. And so was it a light bulb moment for you seeing HBO Def Jam?
It wasn't a light bulb moment because I wanted to produce television. I always wanted to work behind the scenes.
Got it. Yeah.
So I started working at BT in DC as a college intern and I stayed there.
Nice.
So, and then I wanted to create sitcoms because I saw Living Single. So stand up was just a way for me to test my humor. I never looked at it as a viable career.
Were you working on something like Comic View at the time when you were at
I
BT?
was working on Rap City.
Okay.
I was working on, it was a show called In Your Ear with Brett Walker. It was like the alternative show with
Uh-huh.
like the Dion Ferrises and the Fishbones and the Jesse Powells and people
Uh-huh.
like that. And so we would go out on location and interview them and then cut it into packages for the music videos.
Got it. Got it.
So that's what I first started doing. Then they got this thing called the sound stage where they started doing
Yeah.
other things called special projects. So I went over to special projects and I stayed there till 1998 when I left and moved to LA. And
Wow.
I within I think 3 weeks I got a job on Magic Johnson's late night talk show.
Oh gosh. And that was how long did that I remember the show. I don't remember how long. I know it was a
Let me
short-lived kind of
see.
situation.
I think it was like 5 months, five or
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
remember
we had
going.
everybody.
I know, that was the great
Yeah.
thing. During
We
that
had
time,
everybody.
you
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
Arsenio paving the way and then other
Yeah.
folks coming in and doing
Yeah.
late night
Yeah.
TV or doing the
Yeah.
talk show format. That was
Yeah.
that was it, I don't want to call it the golden years, but in terms of access and having that kind of programming with people that look like us and presenting
Yeah.
people that that
Yeah.
were favorites within our own world, that was a big
Yeah.
time.
And it was set up incorrectly. The show could
Mm.
have survived a little longer, but they wanted to do this formula of
Hmm.
like black host, white co-host,
Yeah, yeah.
and it just didn't work. At the end of the day, the other people who had co-hosts, whether it was Johnny Carson or whatever, their co-hosts were white people who you could see them hanging out with when the camera stopped
Right,
rolling.
right.
They put Magic Johnson with Craig Shoemaker, two people ain't never gonna hang out. And so we kept saying, get Magic somebody that Magic can really vibe with. They
Right.
wouldn't listen. They would not listen. Now they
Yeah.
looking at us like, who are y'all telling us what to do? We're
Right.
the public. We're the
Right.
people who watch
We
the
are the people
show.
that
We're
are
the people you
watching
should
the
listen
show.
to.
Yeah.
Right. You're a billionaire in Bel Air. Why don't you defer? They
Right.
would not listen. Right before we got canceled, they went and got Tommy Davidson from Magic Johnson.
There you go. Yep. See, and
We're like, it's too late.
yeah.
But see, all of this stuff will be in my book. I will
Let
be
me ask
talking
you
about
this:
it.
have you had a chance for the people that you grew up watching? Have you had a chance to come in contact with them or work with them, and
Yes.
talk about the kind of influence they've had on your life?
Yes, I could never get booked to headline the DC Improv, even though that's where I'm from.
Wow!
So
Wow!
to this day. So they came up with a club called the Riot Act in
Uh huh.
DC, and it was a 400 seater, beautiful, state of the art. When it first opened up, it was so popular, the computer crashed trying to charge people for what they had ordered. It just
Uh huh.
crashed. It was so many sales. That club I was able to open for Dick Gregory and Paul Mooney.
Wow! Oh my
And
gosh!
those were two of my idols.
Yeah, I
And
bet. What?
so
What? How did that make you feel?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. It was just wonderful to watch the
Right.
masters at work,
Right.
and to watch Paul Mooney just sit down and tear people up and do it fearlessly,
Right. Yeah.
and there was no cancel culture back then.
Right.
And you
Right.
wouldn't have been able to cancel Paul anyway, because he had been canceled by networks and still kept rocking.
And kept moving and kept it
Kept moving.
moving.
That man was so funny because he could take everything you're thinking about and put this funny spin on it. And it's relevant to this day. Like,
Right.
before the Crown Act,
Yeah.
when black women were getting fired for how their hair grows naturally out of their
Mhm.
heads.
Mhm.
He said, when the hair is relaxed, white people relax. He, he said, he
That's
said,
true.
when the hair is nappy, they are not happy. So just watching him work, and it inspired me, and it made
Yeah.
me write stuff and not worry about the repercussions.
Right. Right.
Write what you feel, make it funny, because if it's not funny, it's a TED
It ain't
talk.
gonna. Right. That's hilarious.
And just go out and do you. So I've been blessed, and I got a chance to talk to Dave Chappelle at the Comedy Store when he had rented out the Belly Room,
Mhm.
and I said, Dave, he rented out for like 3 nights in a row. So after the first night, I went back and I was in a little VIP area, and I said, I would love to open for you. And he said, see that guy right there? Tell him to put you up tomorrow. And so I walked over to him, and he gave me a spot the next day, and I came back, and unfortunately Dave didn't see me because he was still downstairs in the VIP section while the
Of
show
course.
was upstairs going
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah.
he put me on, and I got a
Wow.
chance to talk to him, and he's an idol of mine. I love the way he thinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, I've met some really, really great people that I've wanted to meet. Marsha Warfield. When Marsha Warfield first came back, she did my podcast.
Oh, Alycia, that is
So
awesome. That
yeah,
is
she is just a
awesome.
beautiful person inside and out. So
Yeah, that is. Oh,
yeah.
she really is. She's amazing. She is amazing. And I had the opportunity when George Wallace introduced us, and she came on here, and being exposed to people like that, because I was a little girl when Marsha was coming up, and kind of like you, rushing and listening to these comedians and things I wasn't supposed to be listening to, but having just a real respect for, especially for Black women in this business. My God, it is the road that you all have walked and done and followed in the footsteps of others. Is it any easier today? Do you think?
I think it might even be a little harder today
That's
because
what
of the
yeah.
whole social media influencer. Like,
Mhm.
people with 3 minutes of funny stuff on Instagram
Instagram, yeah,
can headline a club that
because
you
they
can't
have a
headline because
gazillion
they have the
followers.
followers.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've met. Now, when you get to the club, you ain't laughing. And at the end of the day, you can take a picture with them,
Right.
but they had they had the followers, and you can't get into a club when you have the chops.
Right.
So that's what's made it more
They
difficult.
got the followers, you got the chops. Wow. All right. So one more time, how can people, uh, I guess, stream your special or download it, and how
Okay.
can we see it on Tubi?
Okay. So you can go into iTunes and type in Alycia Cooper for president,
Okay.
and then that'll come up. And then on Tubi tomorrow, you can just type in Alycia Cooper for president in the search bar, and that should come up as well. Now that's the special with the video and the audio, whereas iTunes is just all audio.
Okay, so I can have the audio for the car and
The video
download
for
the
the
video.
home.
That's right. And when I get on the plane the next time, so I'll have it for because I can't have it while I'm driving. I understand.
And what
Uh,
I like about Tubi is it's free. That's what I
awesome,
like.
awesome, awesome. So, but how does that affect your pockets?
Well, you get paid by the impressions.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. All right, good. Okay, so everybody go and download and watch it, and then because we want you to get paid.
And can I say thank you, Sybil? Can I say one more thing? I want to also thank George Wallace,
Okay, sure.
because George Wallace is one of those legends
Mm-hmm.
who is the only legend who's always been in my corner. George
Yeah.
Wallace makes calls for me. I don't even know he's doing
Mm-hmm.
it. George Wallace got me on the Tom Joyner cruise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
George let me
absolutely.
open for him multiple times in Las Vegas. And he is just a wonderful person inside and out. So I want to thank George Wallace, because people don't get their flowers while they're here often enough.
And
And
he
he
is
is an
one.
amazing man.
Yeah, he is one who deserves all the flowers he can get. Absolutely. It's crazy sometimes. Watch old Johnny Carson reruns and to see George performing, and I'm like, oh my God, I know him.
Yes.
Alicia, how can people follow you on Instagram too?
Alycia Cooper and the number 2.
Okay.
So, and that's the place I'm on the most. Some of my Instagram stuff goes automatically to my Facebook. If you
Hmm.
type in Alycia Cooper fan page, that'll
Hmm.
come up on Facebook. And my TikTok is Alycia Cooper 3, but I'm not on TikTok as much as Instagram.
Well, we are going to make sure everybody follows you and that they download and that they stream and they make you a very rich woman.
Thank you, Sybil.
Thank you, my
And
darling.
y'all keep supporting Sybil, because this show is always awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're going to move and I'm going to ask you to stick around because now we are going to talk about something that is going on in Atlanta. And it is a concern, something we've talked about before. And our social justice writer, Coy Malone, has talked about it. But I do want to mention it in today with this interview. And so, with this, let us move to our interview with Brandy. Brandy, I'm looking for your last name, but there you are. Oh, there you are, Brandy Williams, my godmother's name. Brandy Williams. Let us talk a little bit about what's going on in Atlanta and Cop City. This is a project. I think it's under the guise of the city of Atlanta for police and for fighter training. Correct?
Yes, it's a $90 million public safety training facility, police, fire, EMT. Yeah.
And it is they want to put this up and it's larger probably than any facility in the country, or at least it sounds like it. And then they're making a a big deal out of it because it is so big, and they want to encourage the public to appreciate this training facility. But there is a large contingent of people who are not in favor of this, and they are boycotting, they are protesting. And why is that?
So it's a $90 million public training facility that is being voted on by the city of Atlanta, but it's actually in DeKalb County. It's
Okay.
down the street from McNair High School. So it's in a predominantly Black community. And they're tearing down one of the nation's largest forests, the Weelaunee Forest, to build it, which will also create some environmental pollution. But the thing that's most concerning is that they're using this as a national recruitment tool, one for Atlanta PD, but also nationally to recruit police officers to come down to Atlanta to be trained in military techniques that
Mm-hmm.
they will actually use on the streets. And so if you think about what that looks like, it's increased policing in our communities. It's using military tactics that should only be used in war in our communities against our people. And so that's what they'll be doing. They'll be training Atlanta PD. They'll be training police across the nation. So just think about the implications of what that means for policing across the nation. So as we are crying, reimagine what police looks like, We don't need military police in our communities.
Right.
They're actually setting up to build a $90 million facility, a state-of-the-art facility to do just what we are saying we don't need in our communities.
What we're trying to get away from in a lot of respects, because the police that are doing the greatest amount of damage, I dare say, are those that have learned their practices and their tactics while in the military or from other organizations that have done this. And so now, um, as we're fighting for some humanization within the police departments, that's the antithesis of what they're bringing to Atlanta.
Exactly. And if you think about it, I want to go back to the history of
Yeah.
policing in Atlanta. So there was a Red Dog unit that operated in Atlanta for many years. It was disbanded in 2011, but for all the years that it operated, they had lots of reports of police brutality, oppressing the people, killing Black bodies, killing Black men and women, and doing so in using military tactics. And so while to me, this is just a shift, right? So
Hmm.
now we can't have our Red Dog unit, but we can train all officers, not just one unit, but we're training all officers. And we're not just training Atlanta officers, we're training officers across the country to be military soldiers in communities where that's not what we need. You know, you just talked about mental health and
Hmm.
how important that is. And when we think about what ends up happening with our people, um, a lot of this is mental health crisis. A lot of the things that we're
Yeah.
dealing with are because of lack of education, lack of access to food and nutrition,
Right.
mental health issues, trauma from systemic racism. And so the way that you're going to solve that is not by inviting militarized policing into our communities.
So when you said Red Dog, and that immediately brought to mind what happened in Memphis with the Scorpion Unit
Yes.
and those men who, the Black policemen who were charged in the murder of Tyree Nichols, were a part of the Scorpion Unit. And so from a public relations standpoint, the police department saying, "Oh, we're disbanding all of this, we're getting rid of it," and you call it what it is. You don't, arose by any other name. We don't call it the Scorpion Unit. We don't call it the Red Dogs, but that is what they are doing. Those are the tactics that they are training, and saying it's just good policing.
Exactly. And so, and for 2 years, Atlanteans have protested against this. For 2 years, they said we don't want it. Just a few weeks ago, at a city council meeting, 15 hours of testimony, at least 100 people spoke, and only 6 people said that we support this. So the majority of the people do not want this to move forward. But the Atlanta City Council voted to move forward with leasing the land to the Atlanta Police Foundation so that they could continue to build this facility. And so what organizers in Atlanta who've been working on it for 2 years, what they're doing now is trying to get a referendum on the ballot for the November election. We
Mm.
have to get 70,000 valid signatures by August 15th,
Woo.
right? And but let me tell you, it's not an easy situation. So to get the signatures, you have to be a City of Atlanta resident, like
Mm.
living in City of Atlanta proper. You have to sign the petition in City of Atlanta proper. There has to be a City of Atlanta resident who's a registered voter that actually witnesses it and signs, as an affidavit.
Uh-huh.
And you have to be on the 2021 municipal voting roll. So it's not even
Right.
like you have to be just a City of Atlanta resident who's a registered voter. You actually have had to have voted in the 2021 municipal election for your signature to count on the petition.
My
And we have
God.
until August 15th to find these people.
So what's going on this week?
So tomorrow night at the gathering spot, we'll be having a conversation to explain all of these things to people, to talk about the history of over policing in Atlanta, to connect the Red Dog Unit and some of the these other over policing things that have happened in Atlanta to what's happening at Cop City, because people still, they're like, crime is going up. Is not this a good thing? And we're like, no, it's not a good thing. And here's why. So we'll be explaining that, and we will have petitions there so people can come and sign. We're also doing a photo shoot so people can take photos with Stop Cop City shirts and stickers that we can use to help continue to explain and talk about what's happening, because if this continues and is built, it has national implications. The program starts at 7, but our photo shoot starts at 3 p.m. So anytime from 3 p.m. to 8:30, if you can come to the gathering spot in Atlanta, we would love to have you. And again, you have to be a City of Atlanta resident to sign the petition, but we welcome everybody to come join us and help us raise awareness about what's going on and help us get these 70,000 signatures.
So people who do not live in Atlanta, like Alycia and myself, where is the gathering spot so that we can tell our folks in Atlanta where they need to go?
Hold on one second. I'll give you the
Okay.
address.
While you're looking for that, Alycia, let me ask you, you come from a progressive area. Does this sound anywhere near what could be happening or has happened in your neck of the woods?
Well, PG County to this day has never convicted a white male cop for murdering anybody black to this day.
Wow.
So it's a national problem.
Yeah.
But when she was talking, what I started thinking about was the Camden, New Jersey Police Department. They've been able to fix a lot of the problems that they've had. They're a model for how other police departments can actually conduct themselves. And it lets you know it can be done.
Right.
So people want to tell you, oh, it can't improve, it can't be done. The good cops are silenced by the bad cops. And check out Camden, New Jersey and see how they did it. But for us, and the thing is having the cops live in the communities that they serve. That's one of the main things you can do, is make sure that the cops live in the community, because then they can know one another, and then everybody's not so fearful and you're shooting first and asking questions later, or people don't have such a bad taste in their mouth for police. So
I don't want
have to happen.
I don't want to say that everything I spew comes out of television, but there was a TV show that was on this season. It was called East New York, and a Black woman was running a police district in New York, and that was one of the things that she started or tried to revive, is that the cops live in the community, and instead of living in the suburban areas or whatever. And that's something that, I think makes a big difference. Brandy, I don't know if you want to comment on that or if you just have the information, but I think that's an interesting proposal that should be perhaps considered in a lot of this in terms of policing in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it that there's so many connections and things that are happening across the country that connect to this. And I think it just continues to drive home the point I was making about, the national implications for this. So, but I do have the address and the RSVP. So the address is the gathering spot, Atlanta, at 384 North Yards Boulevard, Northwest.
North Yards Boulevard, Northwest. Okay.
And you can RSVP at hiphopcaucus.org.
And that's your organization?
Yes, I'm with the Hip Hop Caucus.
Okay. Hip Hop.
And I think Alycia was talking earlier about when she got involved in politics, and she mentioned Diddy and Vote or Die. And our president and CEO worked with Russell and Diddy during that time. And this organization was actually born out of the Vote or Die movement. So he kept going. They kind of passed the torch on, and we've been around. It'll be 19 years, September 11th this year.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, Brandy, keep up the great work. Alycia, do you want to make any more comments or observations?
Yes, I wanted to ask Brandy a quick question.
Sure.
This might sound a little simplistic, but have you reached out to the people with the long followers that are Atlanta natives, like Candy Burris, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, some of those people that can send out one thing and reach 10 million Instagram followers, for instance, some people that are in Atlanta with the long followers?
Alycia, you want to get me in trouble. So, so yes, we
She's
have
asking you
reached
put
out
people on
to
Front Street.
yeah, exactly. We've reached out to Atlanta celebs. This is a topic that is very controversial, and so
Mhm.
a lot of celebrities are staying away from it. I my personal speculation is, it could be partly because a lot of celebs supported the current mayor, who is an Atlanta native, during his campaign. There's a lot of business that can happen in Atlanta in terms of them being able to do music, getting access to different things. So I think there are several reasons that they are not. But yeah, we've tried.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
see if we
So,
can put some fire under some folks.
yeah.
Listen, we need all the support we can get. So I
Yeah.
Yeah. Usher,
appreciate
where
that.
you at? Usher
Okay.
Raymond, where you at?
Okay. Okay. If y'all can come on my friend Sherry Shepherd show, y'all can step up and help people in your own backyards for sure, and
Yes.
have
Amen.
your voices
Yes.
heard. Brandy, keep up the great work. Once again, people can reach you at hiphopcaucus.org, right?
Yes, hiphopcaucus.org, and we're at Hip Hop Caucus on all social media platforms.
Great. And we will touch base with you and find out how you're going, and proceeding in the meeting your deadline with the tens of thousands of signatures you need to get, and the hoops that you have to jump through in order to get this done by August 15th. Thank you
I
so much, and we appreciate you. Brandy Williams, out there fighting the good fight against Cop City. So, and good on Coy Malone for doing this. Um, Let me ask you a couple of things, just in terms of what has happened today in the news, Alycia. You
Mhm.
heard about the affirmative action decision that came down
Yes.
from
Yes.
the Supreme Court, and I got to ask you. I don't know. It's perplexing to me, but I need to have some clarity, and maybe this is a ridiculous question, but who is Tim Scott running against? Is he running against other Republicans for the Republican nomination, or is he running against Joe Biden, or is he running against Barack Obama? Once again, Tim Scott is lashing out at a comment made by President and former First Lady Michelle Obama about the Supreme Court decisions, and said that their disappointment in the decision comes from a deep place in hell.
Ooh,
That's what
I
I
didn't hear
said. I
that.
was like,
I
dude,
didn't.
really?
Well, yeah. First of all, Sybil, whether it's Tim Scott or Nikki Namarata Haley or whoever, these people already know that they don't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. My theory is that they're kicking up all this dust so they can command higher speakers fees.
Right,
They know they're not going to win anything.
right.
And come on, Tim Scott, nobody, your gums alone will keep people from voting for you. So they get on my daggone nerves. But the thing about this whole Supreme Court decision, they didn't do anything about legacy admissions.
Right.
They don't do
Yeah,
nothing about all that stuff that benefits the rich.
that's
So
right.
if your worry is about people getting stuff you don't think they deserve, then
Hmm.
you should do it across the board. But we know what this is really about. But then they want to act like they care about Asians. Y'all don't care about no Asians. And I hope what happens is the universities become 100% Asian and white people don't even get a spot. Then it'll burn you in your behind.
And because it's already there. I mean, Asians have done the work. They deserve, to have their time to shine and to be admitted to
Yeah.
schools like this. I'm not saying that we don't do the work, and I'm not saying we don't deserve. I'm just saying that this is a coalition that should be made between Asians and Blacks and Hispanics in order to fight this. And and
Well,
against
we
and
ain't gonna get
against
that kind of solidarity because other people are anti-black. But when they sit up there and they talk about Hispanics, they talk about, oh, we don't want them to fundamentally change our way
right,
of life. But they don't say that about other groups of people. It
no,
depends on what they feel is benefiting them in the moment. And they're going to get bitten in their behind playing these games.
right.
They're going to get bitten and they're going to cause everybody to balkanize. And now
Mhm.
we're going to be grouped off and nobody's going to like anybody else. And then even more
No,
colors
that's
going
and
to
that's
break
how they
loose.
win. That's how they win.
That's how they win.
Yeah, Absolutely. A couple more things. I do want to send condolences to the King family. Christine King Ferris, the last living sibling of Martin Luther King Jr., has died. Her niece tweeted that her beloved aunt died Thursday, and she was 95 years of age. She was always in the
Wow.
background for all of these things, helping Mrs. Coretta Scott King following Dr. King's assassination, working along with Mrs. King to preserve and promote his legacy. And also a really interesting thing, she went to Spelman. She was a graduate of Spelman College. Everyone knew that Martin Luther King graduated at an early age from Morehouse. She and her brother graduated on the same day. She from Spelman, he from Morehouse. And 1948, she got a degree in economics, and he got his degree in sociology. And she's just been a force in within the civil rights community. And so we send our condolences to them. And
Black excellence.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And speaking of Black excellence, thank you so much, Alycia, for joining us, and for everybody go out and download Alycia Cooper for President, and let's get our downloads from Tubi as well, so that we can get those views for Alycia, and she can make some money.
And can I say one more thing,
Of
Sybil?
course.
I went the other day to this play called A Soldier's Play.
Oh
And it
wow,
was
I
the
haven't seen that in a
last
long
day that
time.
it was coming out. Yeah, it won Tonys and everything, and I understand why after seeing it. One piece of dialogue that stuck out for me in that play, because a lot of stuff that was happening then is still happening right now. But what they were talking about was within the Black community, even though you may have grown up poor or you didn't have a whole lot, one line the guy said was, not having is not an excuse for not getting.
Ooh.
So what we as a people have to do
I
is,
felt that.
regardless of what cards you've been dealt, go get it.
Right.
Not having is not an excuse for
It's
not getting. Let's
Wow.
go get it.
Let's go get it. All right. Okay. You've had your marching orders from Alycia Cooper, everybody. So, let's go get it. We're going to close out we're going to give you Yogi's Jewel, our daily inspiration. It's better to do the right thing and lose than to do what is not right in order to win. That's our daily inspiration for the day. Alycia, we wish you all the best with your latest project, and come back anytime. Promise to promote what you're doing, where you're going, and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
my friend.
Sybil and team. This has been
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank